Hey friends, let's talk about semiotics. In this video, I'm going to be doing a basic semiological analysis of this image from this campaign from Gucci called the Handshake. The point of this video is to get you to investigate different connotations associated with the images that were presented on a daily basis throughout life. Or in other words, how to get us all to examine things from a different perspective. Let's get into it. So what is semiotics? Semiotics legit means the study of signs, how we interpret everything around us. It helps you think differently about what you see and helps you understand that not everything is how it seems. It can also help you make connections to how other people are viewing things. Advertising and media relies heavily on the assumption that people will just accept the cultural norms, that we won't dig any deeper in trying to figure out what else is going on, that we won't question anything. There's a lot of psychology behind this, and in another video maybe I'll get into that, but for now let's focus on semiotics. Before we get to the Gucci image, let's do a very basic example just to explain the two different meanings that come from imagery. We'll use dogs, for example. Everyone knows what a dog is, I hope. So every image has two meanings, as I just mentioned. There's the connotation and the denotation. The denotation is the legitimate meaning. So like you see this picture of a dog and you're like, whoa, that's a dog, representing dogs everywhere, right? It's not necessarily a specific dog, but people understand that it is, in fact, a dog. Then you have the connotation. The connotation is the interpreted meaning. This can vary from person to person depending on their experiences, their culture, their background, endless conscious and unconscious factors. And of course, that implicit bias that you've been hearing a lot about lately. For some, while they might see the dog, they might have a connotation of it being happy, loving, cute, oh, I want the dog. But for others, it could be horrifying because maybe they got attacked by a dog when they were a kid. This is important because when you start to break down what we're exposed to in the media, take a second to reflect on other connotations that your mind might not immediately gravitate toward. Okay, let's look at the Gucci image. We'll start with the denotation. When we take a look at this image, the scene depicts what seems to be, we'll say 1960s, 70s, 80s campaign trail in America. Kind of has that vibe. There are 7 models in the image. 6 of them are white, 1 is black. The scene focuses on the interaction between this young black male and this older white gentleman. And as the name might suggest, they're engaging in a handshake. The 5 other people in the image are seemingly looking on in approval or having conversations amongst themselves. In line with most luxury ads, there is no words, nothing to help explain the image, just the Gucci logo, which isn't pictured here because I got this from their website. Let's dive into the connotation now. For part 1, we're going to focus just on the handshake and look at the connotation there. For part 2, we'll go over the afro, the clothing, the smiling. There's so many other things, but we'll save that for the next video. Most would agree that it's a pretty normal interaction, but there's actually a lot more to it. Historically, a handshake can represent overcoming big division, a sign of bringing people together. In this image, one could see this and be like, oh, this handshake is symbolizing bringing white and black people together. However, because of the perceived time period, the way that the image is shot, which is a whole nother thing in semiotics, we can assume that there's racial tension here, right? I mean, I guess if this would happen today, you could probably also assume the same thing. This exchange could be seen as a point of reconciliation, a way to ease tensions during a tough time due to white fragility, a term coined by Robin DiAngelo in 2011. You should read her book if you haven't by now. I need to read it still. White fragility is the notion that white people get very uncomfy when they're presented with any sort of racial stress. They get triggered by this. As you might have seen on social media over the last couple of weeks, it's pretty clear to see. And to avoid defensive moves, they generally only surround themselves with people like themselves, which is, you know, the whole idea of like white suburbs trying to shield themselves from the racial stress that is very prominent for a lot of other people in this world. The reason that this might apply to this image, as mentioned before, the handshake is bringing people together. It's kind of like showing that everything is okay. And this can help reduce stress for those who don't want to feel it, right? So if you are, let's say, your average white person and you are trying to avoid any sort of racial stress, seeing this image of this older white gentleman and this young black male coming together in a handshake might make you feel more at ease. You can see examples of this all throughout film. Basically, for the longest time, anytime there was any sort of relationship between white and black, at the end of the movie, you'll see that point of reconciliation to be like, hey, it's okay.
Black man jumps off the train in order to reassure white people, to make them know that they are not hated, that though they have made human errors, they done nothing for which to be hated.
So that's all we're going to cover for part 1 of 2, maybe 3, but let's just wrap it up a little bit here. If we look at this one sign that we just examined, the actual handshake, what does this mean? Think of it this way: if a company's research team knows that there's these connotations associated with a handshake, even if people aren't aware of this, they can be sure to perpetuate these ideas in their advertising, and it'll appeal to the customers that they're showing it to. And therefore, these customers will feel more connected to the brand, even though they're perpetuating something that is not necessarily good. This is especially true with the white fragility situation that we just went over. As usual, this information is hopefully going to get you to think differently about different situations, to look at the bigger picture and really examine the way that the media and everything else is influencing us. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe on my YouTube channel to support me. I appreciate it. Have a great day.